We are live, so good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to this live stream from the Make More Placements community. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 things hiring managers need to believe in order for you to win more exclusive or retained assignments and ditch low value, low quality contingency roles. We're going to get started in about 60 seconds or so. Before we do, I just want to make sure that everything is working from a technology standpoint. So if you can see and hear us okay, and you're watching live, just give us a like and a comment. Just put live in the comment box so we know that you can see and hear us clearly. And if you're watching a replay, just type the word replay in the comments just so we know that it's working and you can hear us.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to today's live broadcast. Of course, we're going to be doing this every week. The purpose of these broadcasts is to help you generate more leads, make more placements, and ultimately earn more money. So welcome on board, and if you're listening to the replay, welcome again.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about 3 things hiring managers need to believe in order for you to win more exclusive or retained assignments and ditch low value contingency roles. So with them, just in the group earlier this week, we posted a question. Terry posted a question asking, what delivery model do people prefer? Like, do you prefer the retained route, the exclusive route, or the contingency route? And a bit of back and forth discussion of different options and different things what people prefer. But quite a few people saying that ideally, retained or exclusive is the goal. But how do we sell it? What do we do? What do we say to hiring managers? So I just want to sort of break down a few of the key beliefs that your hiring managers need to have in order for you to sell your services on a retained or exclusive basis. And we're going to sort of why as well. But first of all, I just want to sort of touch on why the beliefs of your hiring manager is so important, why it's sort of critical to have them believe what you need them to believe in order for you to sell the service. So, one of our sort of fundamental philosophies is that any objection that you've ever had to selling your services, whether it be about the price, timing, anything, is about a belief, right? They believe you're too expensive. They believe now's not the right time. They believe contingency is better than retained. They believe whatever it is, it's a belief. So if we want to sort of break down objections, the thing that we need to influence is the beliefs that the hiring managers have. So all of your sales and your marketing is designed to transform your hiring managers' beliefs. Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, in a nutshell, I mean, what you said there, of course, is spot on. But in a nutshell, whatever you believe is true. So whatever you believe or whatever your hiring manager believes, and just to go back a bit, we posted this on Facebook. We did a poll on LinkedIn. Had nearly 10,000 people view this poll. But here's what was interesting: 51% of those people that voted would prefer to do it on a retained basis. 51%. 36% would rather do it on an exclusive basis, and of course, the remainder, about 13%, would rather do it on a contingent. And personally, I don't know about you, Drew, I was surprised it was as much as 13% would rather work on a contingent basis. But again, I suspect that's around recruiters' beliefs about what's best for them or best for the hiring manager. But ultimately, just to recap on that, whatever you believe, whatever your hiring manager believes, it's true, and that's a challenge. But there's certain things that a hiring manager has to believe before they're gonna work with you on the retained basis. And just to recap on that, a retained basis is when the hiring manager pays you a percentage of the fee up front. That's why nearly 51% of recruiters would rather work on a retained basis, because now you're going to work and get paid for it. Back to you, Drew.
Yeah, and just really to sort of outline our philosophy and why. We've always preferred, so when we're working with clients, with all the recruitment and search concerns we help, we always prefer either retained or exclusive with a cancellation. So retained being, as Terry said, you get paid up front, or exclusive, you don't necessarily get paid up front, but we have the cancellation policy in place because, I mean, quite frankly, if you've got an exclusive agreement with a client, but there's no real consequence for them breaking that agreement, as in, maybe it's Monday, you agree an exclusive, but then on Wednesday, another recruiter reaches out to them and they maybe break that agreement. There's no consequence there. And it's not really an exclusive agreement. So what the cancellation policy does is, if for any reason the client breaks the policy or changes their mind, about hiring in general, you're still due some of the, at least a percentage of the payment, right? So the percentage, again, is down to you. We usually recommend at least a third of the final fee. But that's sort of our philosophy: retain or exclusive with the cancellation. The reason being, there's a lot of, you speak to a lot of recruiters, and there's always talk about, they want to get more job orders or more recs, whatever you want to call it. And that's all well and good, but there's good job orders and there's not so good, right? There's high quality and there's low value. Typically, when you go down the contingency model, again, you may not fall into the category, you may be different, you may be one of the rare exceptions where this isn't the case. But typically, with the recruiters that we speak to, if they go down the contingency route, or the job order is easy to win, what happens is, they win a job order and the client's also giving that job order to, multiple other recruiters, 3 to 10 other recruiters, meaning there's lots of competition to fill the same vacancy. When there's lots of competition, fill rates drop. So what you'll find is recruiters, for every 10 job orders they get, they're only filling 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. For every 10 job orders they get, if they're only filling 4 of them, 60% of the time they're actually failing, right? And it's not about failing necessarily. It's about 60% of the time you're working and not getting paid. So one of the things that we're big on is, if you want to sort of grow your business, one of the easiest, quickest ways to do it is actually get paid for the work you're doing. If there's 60% of the time you're not getting paid now, what if we could transition you so actually every time, or 8, 9, 10 out of 10 times you're getting paid, rather than 4 out of 10 job orders you're getting paid on 8 to 10 out of them. Okay, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, we just need to go back to March of last year. Most of the world came to a standstill with a thud as the economy closed down, as everybody went into lockdown because of the pandemic. And the amount of recruiters I talked to said, I was working on a host of jobs and they all got pulled because they were working on a retained basis with no exclusivity with cancellation. Our clients, by the way, didn't have that problem, because if they were working like that and the client pulled the plug, because it's quite clear, if this is pulled for any reason whatsoever, you pay a percentage of the fee, and that's quite clear in the terms. And by the way, just somebody might be thinking now, well, my clients won't agree to that. Quite frankly, if your clients aren't going to agree to that, I would encourage you to walk away, because at some level they're thinking of pulling the plug on this. But imagine that you're in that situation as the world came to a standstill at the end of March, beginning of April. The whole economy went down to meltdown, and the clients pulled the plug and said, "I'm sorry." Things that you said, "Hey, that's okay," but as per our agreements, you still pay the fee. Now our clients got their fees, and I want to be clear about it. They were quite reasonable about it. They said, "We realise it's a pandemic, and look, we'll take the fee now. And if you reactivate this search at a later date or this assignment, we'll take that off the fee." But from the recruiter's point of view, from you as a business owner, they got paid for the work that they did. I think the thing to add, Drew, you're talking about, recruiters will fill between sort of 10 and 60% of the roles they work on. Just as an aside, a question I'd ask you as well: how many of you are measuring how many job orders you need to work on to fill one? Because the majority of cases, I'm talking to recruitment and search business owners every day of the week. I'm probably talking to 5 to 7 owners a day, every single day. And in most cases, they don't actually measure it. So they take a guess. And whenever they take a guess, it's usually higher, because they say, "Oh, we fill about 40%. I say, "Great. Well, look, just go away and measure the last quarter and see what it actually is." And in majority of cases, 95% of cases, the number is less than that. When they measure it, the number comes out about 25%. But think about it, as Drew said, 75% of the time you're working, you're not going to get paid. There aren't many industries like this. You go for a coffee and say, "Yeah, I want to try your coffee, and I'll decide if I pay you afterwards." Or you call a builder in to do some work for you. You say to it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for the hiring manager, and it certainly isn't good for you as the owner of the business to be using that model and taking that gamble every single time.
Yeah, perfect. So again, just to reiterate, to make very clear, if fill rates are, any lower than 8 out of 10, so for every 10 jobs you work on, if you're filling any less than 8 of them, then this might be a model that you want to look at, might be a model you want to explore going forward. Or if your fill rates are good, but actually you just want to get paid up front for the quality work that you do, then again, this might be these two models might be something you want to look at going forward. So look, let's jump right into it then. There's three things your hiring manager needs to believe in order for you to move to this model. Or if you're already sort of maybe doing some exclusive and some retained assignments, but you want more, these are three things that you need to sort of build into your marketing and ensure that your hiring managers believe. So number one, they need to believe that the service that they'll get with an exclusive or retained agreement is superior to what they'll get with contingency, right? So they need to believe that the service they're going to receive when it's exclusive or retained is superior than what they're going to get if it's contingency. So one of the things that we sort of realized doing this is that a lot of recruiters, but also predominantly a lot of hiring managers, hiring leaders, whatever you want to call them, like person in charge of the hiring decision, they're not familiar with the difference between the two, right? And they think that actually with retained, with exclusive, with contingency, I'm just going to get the same service, except for with contingency, I'm going to have multiple recruiters giving me that service. And with exclusive or retained, I'm just going to have one recruiter giving me that service, right? So from their point of view, if we don't explain the differences, if we don't sort of get across to them what the differences are, why would they go down the retained or exclusive route, right? So they need to really understand the differences that they're going to get. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and it's a really good point, because there's this. I think part of the beliefs that we're talking about is the recruiter's beliefs about, well, I can see how this is going to benefit me, but how's it going to benefit the client? And that's what you've got to communicate. If you can get, there's a saying, isn't there? You can get anybody to do anything if you can communicate the benefits of them doing it. So if you communicate to the hiring manager how they're going to benefit from working with you on a retained or exclusive basis, they're more likely to do it. But you've got to communicate the benefit to them, not to you. So you're saying it's going to help with your cash flow, they couldn't care less. You saying that if we work exclusively, the best candidates come to you exclusively, and I don't share them with any of your competitors, now you're going to get the hiring manager's interest. So it's imperative that you communicate the benefit to the hiring manager, and so they appreciate there's an enormous difference between contingency, retained, or an exclusive, and that's what you've got to communicate. Because if you don't, they're thinking, well, why would I do that?
Yeah, 100%. I think the mistake that we see people make is that they want to get more exclusive or retained agreements, and they get, as a recruiter, as a business owner, you get caught up on the benefits to you, right? Which are obvious, right? Like we said before, right at the beginning, you're going to get paid up front, you've got more chance of filling the role. Obviously, the hiring manager or the hiring leader doesn't really care about that. They want to know what the benefit is to them. So as Terry said there, one of the biggest benefits is not only are they exclusive to you, it also means that you're exclusive to them. So when you go down the contingency model, the emphasis is always going to be on placing the candidate, right? If you're contingency, you placing the candidate is where you get your money. So the emphasis is always going to be on you placing the candidate, and that's where your, that's where your motives are, placing the candidate. With exclusive or retained, the emphasis gets switched to filling the vacancy, right? You're not attached to any one candidate. You're not attached to, any particular candidate in the market. What you're attached to is getting the best person to fill this vacancy. So when you go down the exclusive or retained route, rather than the client maybe feeling like you're representing the candidate, actually you're representing the client, right? You're exclusive to them. The other sort of big thing is, when the emphasis is on contingency and the emphasis is on placing the candidate, when you get that good candidate, what do you do? Typically, and again, you may be different, but what recruiters do, they've got this hot candidate, they'll send it to multiple different clients or potential clients in the hope that, one of them or more of them say, yeah, let me speak to that candidate, let me interview them and let me make them an offer, right? So we create this, if you do that, you create this, you create counter offers, you create this competition, right? You essentially create competition for your clients. With exclusive, if you're exclusive to the client, when you find the best candidates or when you come across the best candidates, you're giving them exclusively to that client. So essentially what we want to be asking during the sales meeting is, Mr. and Mrs. Client, Mr. and Mrs. Hiring Manager, when I find the best candidates, would you rather me send them to just you, or are you okay with me sending them to you and your competitors too? Right? So again, not all, but a lot of the time, obviously the hiring manager, well, I want them just for me, so I've got the pick of the bunch, rather than knowing that you're out there sending them to their competitors as well. Right, so check in. Give me a yes in the comment box if that makes sense. Terry, anything you'd add to that?
Not at this stage. I think I think we've really emphasised that it is about communicating the benefit, and asking the right questions. And Drew gave a great example there. Do you want the best candidate? When we find the best candidates, do you want us to share them with your direct competitors, or do you want them exclusively? And 95% of the time, the client says, no, I want the best candidates exclusively. I do not want you to share them with my competitors. Okay, we can do that. Another benefit of working exclusively or on a retained basis, because I won't be doing that.
Just another quick point to add is that when you go down the exclusive or retained route, this is what needs to be get across to your clients, is that you can dedicate more time and energy to each role. With contingency, obviously, as I said before, the emphasis is going to be on placing the candidate, and a lot to do with speed as well. How quick can we get the candidates across to the client? How fast can we do this? With exclusive or retained, you don't have that added pressure of knowing that your competitors are also working in the same role, right? So you've got more time to dedicate on each vacancy. If you think about your business now, especially if you're sort of dominantly contingency, if you think about your business now, if your fill rates are only, you need to work on 10 job orders to fill just 4, when you go down the exclusive or retained route, you can cut a lot of those off. You can turn business away, right? You can work less just to fill the 4 vacancies, right? 4 job orders. So rather than working on 10 to fill 4, you can work on 4 to fill 4, meaning you've got so much more time. So that your quality of service actually goes up when you go down the exclusive and retained route. And again, we need to get that across to your clients. Kerry, anything to add on number 1 before we move on?
No, I think we're good to go to number 2, which number 2, exclusivity. Get my words out. When it's exclusive, not only does it eliminate competition for you, but also for the hiring manager. So when you're working exclusive, as we touched on, hiring managers often believe that if you work exclusively, it only benefits the recruiter, but that isn't the case. When you're working exclusively, it buys loyalty, because not only is a client exclusive to you, but also exclusive to them as well. So again, this is all about communicating the benefit to the hiring manager. And what we're going to communicate here is it eliminates competition for the hiring manager, because hiring managers often don't appreciate that. That if they make the decision to work in the contingent, as Drew kind of touched on it, you're not going to necessarily work with the best recruiter. You're going to work with the fastest recruiter who can fill that role the quickest. Doesn't mean you're going to get the best candidate, because the driver for the recruiter is just to fill that role as quickly as possible. So working exclusively eliminates that. Anything to add to that, Drew?
Yeah, again, this is something for you to think about for yourself, not you, Terry, if you don't have a contingency route. If you're a contingency recruiter, are you loyal to your clients? Is it loyal to find the best candidate and then send it to their competitors? And again, that's for you to answer. Again, with the retained and exclusive route, we can give that loyalty back to the client, which again, ideally in turn, we get that back as well. So moving on to number three, the third sort of belief that they need to have is they need to believe that you're the best recruiter to work on this particular vacancy. So, if you've done your marketing right up to this point, we've got them to believe that the service they're going to get with an exclusive or retained agreement is superior to what they would have had with contingency. We've got them to believe that. We've got them to understand that exclusivity not only eliminates competition for you as a recruiter, but also eliminates competition for them as a hiring manager or hiring leader. If they believe those 2 things, they're going to work exclusively with somebody, right? Assuming they want the best candidate in the market, they're going to work exclusively with somebody. So the next thing we need to get them to believe is that you're the best recruiter to work on this particular vacancy. Again, even if the client understands that exclusivity or retained is the best way to go, there's no guarantee that they'll choose you, right? They're going to work with one person. They're probably speaking to multiple recruiters. How do we sort of get it so they believe that you're the best person to work with? Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you've summed it up really well. This is so important that you're communicating that you're the best recruiter to work with on this particular role. And if the hiring manager doesn't believe this, then you've got a problem. And we keep coming back to contingency, and one of the things with contingency, and people, we hear of stories of recruiters. A hiring manager gives them a job order, and they're in the office, and they high five their their colleagues because they've just got a job order, but they haven't got anything really. They've just got a job order. The amount of times I talk to recruitment and search business owners, and they talk about, things are a bit challenging at the moment, but they've got, 3 job orders to work on, and if one of these 3 fall in, everything's gonna be okay. That's basing your business on hope, and hoping that one of these 3 are going to fall in, and you're going to make a placement. So it's critical. I keep going on about it. It's critical to both the owner, the consultants, and also the hiring managers, that you communicate that you're the best recruiter to work with that particular vacancy, and you need to demonstrate that you're the best person. It's as simple as that. So that's why around sales and marketing, it becomes even more important that you get this right, because just talking to a hiring manager, them giving you a job order, there's no sales or marketing involved in that. They simply give you the job order, and we actually think in some cases the hiring manager give recruiters the job order just to get rid of them. Yeah, here, get on with this. And how many times have you been given the job order? You've worked with it, you send through the CVs or the resumes, but they never ever respond to your messages because they're not that engaged in it. They have no engagement in the process whatsoever. They probably gave you that job order just to get rid of you, and they probably filled it and didn't even have the courtesy to let you know. But there you are, working your butt off. So there are so many benefits to working on an exclusive or a retained basis.
Yeah, Terry, just on that, I want to sort of hammer home the point that the sales and marketing process becomes even more important, because I think often when recruiters think about marketing the service, they think about how can I get more job orders, right? How can I get more job orders? So and to be frank, getting more job orders or winning a client that gives you a job order, if you can even call it a client, it's easy to do. We're in an industry where we're lucky that there's always going to be a demand for your services. There's always going to be vacancies. There's always going to be a need for what you do. So if you just up your volume of whatever you do now, whether it's cold calling, whether it's an email campaign, whatever it is, whatever sort of, if it's NPCs, whatever you do to generate business at the moment, if you do more of that, you win job orders, right? So you see a lot of people, marketers promising, "Oh, look, we'll get you more job orders, we'll get you more job orders," and they definitely will. There's a difference though between a job order and a quality job order, right? A job order that's easy for you to win just by sending an email or by making a cold call, or it's easy for you to win without there being any relationship there, without there being any sales process or sales skill involved. It's also easy for other recruiters to win, right? If you can send an email out to someone on a job board or whatever and win a job order, then I can do the same thing. So, and so can 10 other of your competitors, right? So again, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but what happens is that becomes a low quality job order because you've got 10 recruiters working on the same role, right? Where your marketing and your sales need to be different with exclusive or retained is we need to get there, we need to be speaking to the hiring manager before there's a vacancy. The relationship needs to be built before there's a vacancy, and essentially we need to be in a position that when there is a vacancy, we are the first person they think of. If they're thinking of starting the hiring process next month, we want to be there the month before, having the conversation, walking them through the process. Because if we're too late, if we're not the first recruiter they think of, then it's impossible to get. If we've already given the role to somebody else, we can't get exclusive. Definitely can't get retained, right? Because we're too late. So we need to be there before, which means there's a shift in how you market and how you sell your services. Also with contingency, there's very little. It doesn't have to be any sales skill involved because there's no commitment from the client. There's nothing to lose, right? There's nothing to lose. It's kind of like if a recruitment consultant rang you tomorrow and said, "Hey, look, I want to work for you. You don't have to pay me. You don't have to do anything until I win a client, right? Only then you have to pay my salary, right?" Everyone would be like, "Yeah, okay, fine." There's no commitment, and that's the same with contingency. There's no commitment from the client. You haven't sold anything, right? Selling involves an exchange of either money or at least a commitment. There's no commitment there from the client. So again, your marketing and your sales process need to change if you want to go down the exclusive or retained route. You need to get right what you're saying in marketing, how you're positioning yourself as a recruiter, and also what you're saying during the sales presentation. If you don't get those 2 elements right, it doesn't matter if they believe that they understand that exclusive is a superior service to contingency. Doesn't matter if they believe that, or they understand that, going down the retained or exclusive route eliminates competition. if you can't get your sales and marketing right, they won't use you. They'll use somebody else. Is there anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, another good point you've made there about when you're speaking to hiring managers. If you speak to a hiring manager today, and that hiring manager says, yes, I'm looking for an XYZ, and I've been looking for the last 2 weeks, and there's half a dozen of your competitors working on this, our recommendation would be to walk away from that and not even to have that conversation. And the question you should be asking the hiring manager is about their future recruitment needs rather than what they're doing right now. If you're getting job orders by going on job boards and see which clients are actually hiring now, and then calling them, well, yeah, like as Drew said, anybody can do that, but you're not the only one doing that. So you and all your competitors have done the same thing, gone to the job board, seen who's recruiting, and then reached out to the hiring manager. And as Drew said, the hiring manager in most cases say, yeah, fine, if you find somebody, let me know. But there's no commitment to it. There's no skin in the game. They're not obliged in any way to return your calls. They're not obliged in any way to respond to your emails when you send through the CVs or resumes. Why should they? Because there's absolutely no relationship there. And then what happens is the recruiter gets frustrated with the situation. And I would challenge you on that thinking and say, yeah, I get why you're frustrated, but it's what you actually encouraged in the whole way that the relationship was set up. You know, there's a saying, however you're being treated by anybody is simply a reflection of how you allow yourself to be treated. So if you're giving clients permission or hiring managers permission to do that, that's what they're going to do. But you don't have to. You can say, actually, we don't work like that. We want to give you a superior service, and here's a benefit of working on a retained basis or exclusive basis. But that's your choice, and you can't blame the client or the candidate for the situation you find yourself in. It's about the decision that you've made.
Awesome. So just to recap, so 3 beliefs. 1, the service they'll get with an exclusive or retained agreement is superior to what they'll get with contingency. 2, they need to believe that exclusivity not only eliminates competition for you, but also eliminates competition for them. And 3, they need to believe that you're the best recruiter to work on this particular vacancy. That means that 1, we need to get your marketing right. So we need to get, how you position as a recruiter, and also the volume of conversations you're having with hiring managers. And 2, we need to get your sales right as well. So when you get in a sales meeting, sales call, or face-to-face, or probably Zoom, at least this year, you need to make sure you're saying the right things so they use you. So again, if you want help with that, we've put together a template, call it the exclusive retained agreement template. It helps you sort of formulate the framework to use during your next sales meeting to win either an exclusive or retained agreement. So if you want that, just put the word exclusive in the comment box, and we'll get that to you. If you listen to this anywhere other than the Make More Placements Facebook community, make sure you go and join that, and then we can get that template to you as well. But it's a framework that tells you, what to say at what stages to help the client understand why going down the exclusive or retained route is best for them. So just write the word exclusive in the comment box, and we will get that to you. So anything to add before we wrap up?
No to add. No, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. Just to remind you, we're back same time next week, and we're going to be here every Wednesday at 1500 UK time, which is, Drew, you'll correct me right on this, about 10 a.m. New York time. Is that about right? Yeah, 5 hours, yeah. So every Wednesday, we're going to be sharing tools, techniques, strategies that will help you make more placements and increase your personal earnings. And this is all completely free. If you've got any other friends or friends who owners or directors of recruitment search firms, invite them to join the group, and they get access to it as well. There is absolutely no cost and no obligation. So please join us next week at the same time. Thank you very much for today, Drew. Until next time, folks, take care, take action, and be relentless. Cheers, folks.